Well, I'm super excited about today's episode. First of all, because I have my BFF Abe joining today,
Hello.
Who is a concierge doctor and an addiction specialist, who I thought would be a really great addition to having you, Justin Peck, who is a race car driver who has suffered some mental health issues,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And which I think your story is extremely fascinating, and that's why I'm glad to have you
Happy to
to
be
be
here.
involved. First of all, so Justin Peck, who's a race car driver.
Yes.
Let's just deep dive right into this.
Perfect.
You're super interesting. First of all, you wrote a book called Bulletproof about your struggles with mental health.
Yes.
And what I found when I was kind of going through it a little bit, I noticed that, and you also said this off camera, how you have zero fear. And
Yeah.
like zero, like you're not a fear of consequences, fear. Is that how you actually even became a race car driver in the first place? Because that's a super scary thing to be doing as a job, I would think. But
Well, I mean, for me, I don't think it's scary. Right?
for me, it is. That's what I'm saying. For you, because you have no.
For normal population, yeah, I guess it might be a little. You can have a pucker moment here and there, but it's my entire life has been the fear. Just it doesn't register with me. So consequence. So if I do something, I don't ever really think about what can happen. I've broken 85 bones. I've had 19 surgeries. I've got 12 plates, 9 rods, a couple hundred screws, cadaver parts. I've died twice, 13 concussions. Like I've been through the ringer on all that stuff.
You say you died twice?
Yeah, I physically have died twice. It's over medication.
Yeah.
That's it's like I'm glad he's here because that's
things get crazy on the
yeah.
podcast.
I don't want you to die a third time.
Yeah.
I'm brutal, but not that bad. But
I mean, that's like realistically what happens is like when you get, and I don't want to say uneducated, but when you get people that are used to certain patients, I guess, and when you get a guy that has a higher pain tolerance like me, and they start pumping you full of drugs, and I sit there, I'm like, okay, look, this still really, really, really hurts, and they keep pumping you full of meds, and the next thing you know, you stop breathing.
and then how did they bring you back to? How did you live to tell about it twice?
And I don't know, they bring you back. I don't know what they
Did they
did.
give you naloxone? A lot
Well,
of times
okay,
with overdose,
you
they
know,
give you naloxone
here's
to help bring you
this
back.
was the craziest thing, right? This is crazy. So they gave me this stuff called Narcan,
Narcan, yeah.
right? I have never experienced anything like that before. So I woke up, they brought me back, and so I take this big gasp of air, and I can hear the doctors, but I can't see.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm freaking out. Guys, I can't see. I'm blind, and so through the anxiety of the pain, through the anxiety of not being able to see, it was an experience I wouldn't wish on anybody. Holy cow!
Wow, when did that happen?
2000. Yeah, it's been a while.
So wait, so let's start with how you even became a race car driver. Was it just because you had no fear factor in your life, or you were like loved cars, or what was the?
I've always been a car guy.
Okay.
Always been a car guy. I rode motorcycles with my dad, for years, and when I got married and bought a dirt bike, and I'm like, yeah, let's go try the racing stuff, and I went out and did really well at the first race, and it was an addiction ever since. So I do have an addictive personality. I like the speed, I like the feel goods, the dopamine, the adrenaline, the endorphins. I love those, and that's the only way that I can get the fix.
So then, how did you when did you know that you had like some kind of, I hate to say it, but like some kind of like
No, don't.
mental disorder,
Okay.
or like tell everyone what the mental disorder is, and what's the right way of saying it?
Mental disorder.
That's okay? I don't want to be rude,
Yeah,
so-
No.
Okay.
Like, please, the PC doesn't. It's not in my dictionary. I am the most
Good, 'cause I'm not good
open.
with the
I
PC,
am the
so-
most open and raw guy you will ever meet. I promise you. On
Okay.
That. So ask any question that you want, and you'll get be careful what you ask for.
Okay, good. So what kind of mental disorder do you have?
So, class 1 bipolar. So the story is this. This is how I ultimately figured this one out. So, 12, 13, 14 years ago, I can't really quite remember exactly when, but I woke up in the morning, just a typical morning. I had been kind of on a downside and I wasn't sleeping well, had a lot of sadness, a lot of despair that I was trying to deal with. And I hadn't, at that time of my life, I hadn't
When was this, though? Take us back
This
to when.
was,
How old were you?
this was 2000, would have been probably 2002, 2003, roughly.
Okay.
So 15 years ago, I think it's probably 15 years
So
ago.
you're already an adult, though.
I was what?
You were already an adult. You weren't you weren't a kid. So you didn't have any
Yeah.
mental disorders when you were a kid?
No,
or
I did.
Okay.
And that's kind of where the crazy part of it comes.
Okay.
So I woke up that particular morning, and I was married at the time, and I leaned over and kissed my wife and went upstairs and kissed the kids and went to work like I typically did every day. And grabbed my dog, and dog was in the back, and we went to do our job inspections. It's just what I did. About a half hour later, I found myself at the top of a canyon that I'd been to 100 times. I mean, it was kind of my unplugged place where I could look over the valley, and there was quiet, and it was peaceful. So I let the dog out of the back of the truck, and she's burning around, and I'm sitting in my truck listening to my music, sobbing, just emotional breakdown. The despair that I felt at that moment was painful. So I'm listening to the music, and I grab a notebook and I just start jotting some notes down, right? Looking back, I kind of realized what I was doing, but in a brief moment of irrational thinking, completely irrational thinking, I reached into the center console of my glove box of my truck and grabbed my pistol, and I loaded it, and I put it to my head, and I pulled the trigger. All in one motion. And of course, the outcome wasn't what I expected, right? I got this click. And so then the adrenaline comes through, right?
There was no bullets in the gun?
No.
Or like...
So I thought that. I'm like, man, like, you're a screw up, man. Like, you ruined your own suicide. How could you do that? Wow. So I went and loaded the thing, and the bullet flipped out of the chamber and landed in my lap. So I grabbed the bullet, and I looked at it, and you could see where the firing pin had hit the back. I still have the bullet to this day. So
wow.
I have shot thousands of rounds through this pistol, and it was the only time that it's never shot. So at that moment, what basically happened for me is the adrenaline and the rush that I got off of that immediately pulled me out of this despair moment. And I didn't understand it. There was no science behind it for me. I didn't understand it. And so, but the common sense behind me knew that it wasn't going to last forever. And I knew that the balance of life and how everything works, if I'm really, really high now, it's going to have to come back. But I'm going to be on the real low side. So as I'm driving down the canyon, I call my doctor and said, hey, look, this is what I did. This is what I was going to do. And he said, come down. And so we went. I spent 3 or 4 hours with him filling out all the paperwork and going over the questionnaires. And that's kind of when we finally came up with the name. He's like, you're sort of the poster boy for class 1 bipolar. I'm like, okay, perfect. And so then I started thinking, how long? How long has this been happening? Well, growing up as a kid, I was really, really small. I'm still pretty tiny now, but I was always bullied. I was severely bullied, picked on constantly, and because I was a weird kid. I was weird. I get it. I was weird.
How were you weird?
My mind processes and my mind thoughts were completely off base of what everybody else was thinking. So I could never talk to my friends about what I was actually going through. So at 13, I remember my first Manic. Like it was, I can remember it to this day. And it took me finding out what bipolar was before I could actually go back in life and say, all right, this is what it was. So for me, I've been dealing with the mental blessing. That's what I call it. I wouldn't be who I am today without it. So.
Wow. Is that why you think you're also successful in what you do? Because is that why you have no fear? Because of the mania? Is that how it works?
What kind of symptoms do you attribute your to being manic? What does that mean to you?
And I'm so glad I'm here right now. This is crazy because I'm talking to people that understand it more than I do. The last 2 years of my life has been hell. I'm a really good actor. I can portray like everything's fine. Anybody with a mental disorder, we're great actors. So for the last 2 years have been pretty rough. The last 8 months of my life, most people don't know. I'm looking in the camera kind of shy. But the last 8 months of my life, I spent most of the time in bed. I don't leave. And I've been on that depressive side. So I'll stay.
Really? So right now, are you in the depressive side?
No, so this is what's crazy. And this is why when you brought that up, and this is crazy. This is the first time in my life that I actually am aware of the shift. I'm in the shift moment right now. So I think I'm about 60% manic. So I'm writing all these notes down. And so what I'm trying to do is understand it myself so I can teach by experience. You teach by experience. You teach by knowledge. The only way I can teach is by experience. So it's interesting to me because this is a whole new thing. I'm learning what the manic feels like.
What does it feel like to you?
It's incredible, man. Like it is literally the most incredible thing you'll ever experience in your life. I'm very focused. My racing is better. I start companies. I'm more successful in business. I train harder. I am more motivated to do everything in life, which is so hard because you're at the top pinnacle of everything. Like I have the world by its balls all the time. And then I know in my mind that eventually it's going to go away.
So wait, so then if you kind of found this out almost like 16, 17 years ago that you had it, right? So didn't the doctors put you on medication to balance out your personality?
Oh, yeah.
Right? So if you're on medication, and listen, you know more than I do, but like, how do you still have these crazy highs and lows if you're medicated? That's
the benefits of having a mental disorder. So these are a lot of the things that I think about. You're asking awesome questions. Like this is great. Like this is really awesome because.
Thank you.
So I think about it a lot, and I've actually thought about it over the last like 3 or 4 weeks. If someone has cancer, you can see cancer.
Right.
You can see diabetes. You can see a broken bone. You can't see a mental illness. So for me right now, I'm going in a manic phase, and 3 weeks ago I was in a depressive state. I would talk the exact same way now 3 weeks ago. So you'd never know where I was at. So it's always a constant struggle. The medication, there's a few things I don't talk about: medication, religion, and the other thing I can't remember. But
can't be that important then.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about that one. But on the med end of things, we started just like the typical doctor would that doesn't understand mental health issues. They start throwing antidepressants at you. When you throw an antidepressant at a bipolar guy, bad deal. Like, that's a bad deal.
What happens?
I'm super manic.
Very manic. Very manic. And then the manic side of it ruins relationships, ruins financially. Like, ugh.
But why? If in the manic state, you said, like, you're more productive, you work out harder, your job is better, you're happy. I mean, what are the for someone like in the layman's terms, like what is the downfall of being in the manic depression? In the mania, what are the downfalls?
So the mania
or the pitfalls, I should say.
For me, I think I'm the king of the world, but there are other people that surround me. So the biggest downside is the people that I affect, and I don't mean to. It's nothing that I do on purpose, but I am a handful. I am a handful to take care of. I mean, that's why I've been single now for 8 years now, because
it's hard.
It's hard. I mean, to have a spouse that can go through those stages. I mean, when you're in a manic phase, it triggers addiction. It's like, it's insane.
It does. How?
You feel like you're on top of the world. You're invincible. So you make decisions that may seem good at the time, but have poor long-term consequences.
Yes.
You're very impulsive. People often go into fits of gambling. They buy really expensive things that they can't afford, which is in some ways good that they don't have that fear. Like, you can start a company like you mentioned, but at some point that will end, and then you will switch back to the opposite. So aside from the negative aspects of that impulsivity, you also eventually it will run its course, and then you'll switch back to a severe depression. So it's the job of the provider to give you that insight, which sounds like you have now to some degree. It's often very difficult to treat people with mania because they love being manic.
Yes.
They don't want to be back to normal. They think that's going to be a hindrance to them.
Well, how long does the mania last? How long does the depression last?
That's the question of questions, right? So class 2, and of course you know more about this than I do, but class 2 is a short-acting bipolar, so it can go weeks to months. So you could be a depressive weeks to months to manic weeks to months. On a class 1, it's a long term. So I can be years in manic. I can be years in depressive.
It can last that long?
Oh yeah. Yeah, I think my longest one, like actually going back, my longest manic phase was about 4.5 years. And I made the most money I've ever made in my life. I've started the most businesses I've started. I've won more championships in that phase. I don't want to be out of that.
Right. Of course not. Who would?
Who would, right? The problem is you can't sustain that type of mental taxing on your body. Like you can't. Like it's not possible.
So wait, in that stage, that 4.5-year mania stage, were you medicated then, or you weren't medicated?
No way. Like there was no way I was taking anything to take me out of that. Nothing at all.
Because I was going to say, because I feel I have a couple of friends of mine who are bipolar 2, which is the is that the one?
You just switch back more quickly.
Yeah.
You switch back more quickly.
More quickly.
But they're on they're on like heavy meds to medicate them, where they seem balanced. I mean, I could be wrong. Probably in their head, maybe something's totally different.
Usually, it takes someone to kind of hit rock bottom for them to accept the fact that they need medication.
Yes.
Because otherwise, they're going to say the good outweighs the bad. I'd rather take the good.
But I'm saying, like, if you are on medication, if you are medicated, don't you become more balanced? You just chose not to be on it.
No, not always. I mean,
first of all, it takes a long time to find.
It's also trial and error, right?
And the meds for me literally only last so when I'm on a big pharma med, it will only last for 6 or 7 months, and then it will fade away, and then I have to jump onto something else, and then something else, and then something else.
Wow.
The body's a very difficult organism, always trying to adapt and change and go back to its original state.
So I guess this is kind of one of those things where, like, don't you have like very specific routines and habits?
I have to.
That kind of keep you kind of consistent and on point.
Yeah, I have to, because if I don't, I will lose it. Like what I have and what I've built over the years that I've been in business and racing, it will go away. And I understand that. I know that's the only thing that actually keeps me grounded, because I know that if I don't, my medication, and I know that I don't talk about it, but my medication is my helmet, honestly. So I don't take anything for meds right now. I stopped about 4 weeks ago.
Really?
Don't judge me.
No, I'm not.
I'm looking at my doctor right now. No. Don't judge me.
Nobody's judging you. I'm just more curious. So, like, you feel like
I'm gonna step off camera now.
Cut, edit.
And goodbye.
Goodbye. Thanks, brother.
Sorry. Abe has a thank you for showing up for 5 minutes. I appreciate it.
I'll be back.
Okay. Thank you. This is how professional we are here at Habitsandhustle.
No,
you walk in, you stroll out, you know. Anyone else want to join me? I mean, so I guess now I lost my train of thought, but I guess what I was going to say is, you, like, right now, what are you? You're not manic. You don't see, because I know you said, like, in your brain, you're different than what you appear. So if you were being honest with me, where are you right now?
First off, I'm always honest.
Okay.
Second off, okay, maybe not always.
Yeah.
Not always.
Okay.
So right now, and it's kind of like I was explaining, this is kind of a new process for me. So I know that I've been in manic, I know I've been in depressive, and I know what those states feel like. This is the first time in my life, and I'm 45 years old, it's the first time in my life that I'm actually paying attention to it now. So I'm in that moment of focusing, all right, I'm in manic, I'm not 100% there, but I'm starting to get there. So at what point do I decide to start taking my meds where I can, it's a balancing act, because I want to be in the manic all the time.
Right.
And so I push that limit all the time. And I push the limit in everything that I do, which goes back to the no fear of consequence and like not assessing risk.
And so, like, that, so is that a byproduct, you think, of bipolar?
Yeah.
Or is it just who you are as, like, innately who you are, and then the bipolar just exemplifies it and makes it worse?
I believe that for me, I don't want to say that the bipolar has defined me as the person that I am, but it does have a little bit of of a part of it. So
Oh yeah, you live with it every single day. It's who you are.
Yeah. So and a lot of people don't understand that it doesn't go away. So when you see someone that has the flu, they're sick. You can tell that they're sick.
Right.
You can't ever tell if someone's not right up here.
Right. Absolutely true.
So
what do you do? What are your daily routines to kind of keep you in check, so to speak? Like, what did you have to build out for yourself?
the biggest thing for me is structure. So if I don't have a specific structure, so making sure that I wake up, making sure that I train, making sure that my food prep is dialed, making sure that I know.
Like, walk us through it. Like, what are your give me a day in the life of Justin.
All right, so day in the life.
What time do you wake up in the morning?
6:30. Sometimes, but then sometimes I could wake up at 10.
Do you sleep well? Or?
No, I don't sleep at all. Like
right.
it's bad. The mind doesn't shut off. So
when you say you wake up at 6:30, have you even gone to bed?
Sometimes it's usually 6 or 6:30 is when it's like, all right, I give up. I'm gonna get up. So I'll pop out of bed and throw the gym clothes on. I'll train. Do the typical warm up. 46 minutes. Yes, 46 minutes.
46 minutes.
Well, I time
Are
it.
You OCD also?
Probably. So I'm sure there's some other things that fall into that. But it's a 46-minute weight train. It's a 35-minute cardio. And then it's the nutrition after. And then everything's scheduled out. I mean, my alarms on my phone are set up.
Why 46 minutes?
It's just how I do it. I know that each muscle group I take this long to do this.
Do you ever go to 47 or 45? What would happen if you did 45?
I could. I mean,
but it's not like, no, it's probably like an OCD thing, I would imagine, because it's like you were very specific. You said 46 minutes and 35 minutes of cardio.
Yeah.
And so, like, do you do the same routine every day because of that structure, or you do something different?
Yeah. It's different muscle groups and those type of things. So I've been training long enough, and I've been a professional athlete long enough that I understand my body and I know what it takes to be where I need to be.
Okay, and then that's part of your day. And then what do you do next? So you wake up at 6:30. Do you have breakfast in the morning, or?
No, I actually don't. I actually don't eat before I train.
Do you train first before you do anything?
Before anything.
Okay, and then what do you do?
So, and then it's the come home, the shower, and then, depending on where I'm at. So, I mean, I could be in China, I could be in New Zealand, I could be anywhere racing.
Right.
And so it's, the wake up, and if I'm on track, then I go to the track and make sure the trucks or the race cars are ready to go. If I'm home, then I run the companies. So okay, so let me go back to this for the racing. Do you have a sponsor? Who's your sponsor for your race car? We have a bunch. We have a bunch. So like Toyo tires and King shocks and just a bunch of parts and pieces and stuff like that. So
is it hard? I mean, are you able to be? Because I know when people have big corporate sponsors, it's hard for them to be super honest. Sometimes I find with like their mental health issues, because sometimes people pull away from them. Have you found that that's been an issue with your career?
Yeah, hands down. And honestly, I don't care.
Right.
I don't care if I go to a sponsor and they're a little hesitant because I have a disorder. I don't need them.
Right.
That's fine. Go away. I'll find someone else. There's 1,000 other people that want to be on the side of my race car. So I don't need you. Because
you were saying that you're really successful when you're in the Mania standpoint, right?
I feel like I am. I mean, I want to retract that a little bit and being humble. Like I don't mean that.
I mean that when you're. I was thinking that maybe because when you're in your low point, does that kind of become a situation for those sponsors or people who are supporting you on the business end, right? Because they don't know that at any given time, if you do really well by them when you're in one state, but then very fast or in an unknown circumstance, you can decline quickly. Yeah. You're an uncertain person to bargain on, right?
It's very true.
Right.
Yeah. It's that's why I said that we're really good actors.
Yeah, absolutely. You have to be.
We have to be like,
for your career.
Yeah, it's just. I mean, it's one of those things that you can get corporate people that will look at you and say, yeah, this guy can be an uncertainty.
Right.
We don't know. He could maybe not show up. If they look at my track record, I've never missed a race ever.
How many races do you do a year?
I'm slated for 47 weekends this year, so I've only been home a weekend this year.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, I race nonstop. It's all the time. So it's
Wow.
amazing. It's literally the best thing ever.
Wow. And I'm curious, like, do you only make money if you win? How does that work with that stuff? You said I can ask you anything, so I'm going to ask you whatever.
There's no such thing as making money in race cars, man. Like
Really? I feel like Lewis Hamilton makes a lot of money.
Well, yeah, he's an F1 guy,
Yeah.
and he has, he's fast. I mean, that's really rad that you know who Lewis Hamilton is. So,
really?
yeah,
I can name off a couple more.
Yeah, okay.
Danica Patrick. She's a girl, but
it's a girl. Okay.
I can name off another guy in a few seconds. Let me think about it. But I know Lewis Hamilton is. I mean, he's crushing. Yeah.
Yeah.
So what are you then? If you're, I don't know that much to know. I know enough to know that you're not F1. But what are you?
So I drive all off-road stuff. So, well, I guess not all off-road. I do some asphalt racing as well, but my stuff is all on the dirt. I like to do, the 150 miles an hour across lake beds and bumps and jump in the truck a couple 100 feet. And, I mean, that's the stuff that I like to do.
So, literally, that is a death wish waiting to happen.
No, I mean, I've crashed several times and haven't died yet, so.
You said almost twice. That's close.
Yeah. Yeah, that was because of probably people not paying attention to what they're putting into my body. So,
but and also though, like the actual sport you're choosing is quite dangerous.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, I mean,
yeah.
Let's call it. It's not exactly like badminton. You know what I mean?
Well, and it's not a stick and ball sport either. I mean, you can break a leg or break an ankle, and these things here we can burn to death. So, I mean, I've been on fire. It happens. I mean, things happen. I've had my lungs burnt. I've had them.
Tell me. I want to know. I want you to give me the good stuff. I don't want to hear the very generics. I want you to tell me like hardcore what has happened to you. I
have been in the depths of hell with racing.
Give me the worst accident that's ever happened to you, and when did it happen?
The worst one. Probably the biggest one was we were at a race. So we started in Las Vegas, and we ended in Reno, Nevada. So it was like a 900-mile race. And we left the starting line. I had passed everybody up to second place. We had a really good pace, and we were on a downhill dirt road at full speed, go as fast as the truck could go. And I lost focus just for a brief second, and we went off track. Rolled the truck 13 times. From where I went off the track to where the truck finally landed was 650 feet. So we rolled and rolled and rolled. We went off track at over 100 miles an hour. It was crazy. Like, it was nuts.
And you're alive?
Oh, yeah.
What happened to you? What happened? Like,
I broke my scaphoid bone right here in my wrist. That's it.
That's it?
Yeah, and my co-driver was fine, and
well, that's not the worst. I would expect way worse than that, just 650 feet. I would expect 2,000 feet next time.
Yeah, that was that was like the biggest crash, as in like damage to the car. We destroyed the car. Like, it was done. Injury-wise, I've bruised kidneys, and I've punctured spleens. I've collapsed lungs. I've done all that stuff. That's just normal.
But how do you stay how do you stay fit for that type of race car driving?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what is I know you said you do your 40, your 46 and your 35 minute. Is there like very specific things you need to do as routine wise to be conditioned to do what you do?
Honestly, it's
all mental. I imagine
most of it's mental. So, and actually most sports is mental.
It's all mental. I was going to say everything. By the way, I was going to say, even on the physical side, and I talk about this a lot, it really comes down to like being mentally fit.
Yes. And
training your brain with behaviors and habits and all that other stuff. And the byproduct is the physical. The physical stuff is the easy part.
Yes.
If you train your brain properly. So that's why then how do you train your brain? What do you do? Besides, of course, your issue, right?
Yeah, right.
Right. But I mean, that's even more so. Like, so what's your routine before you go into a car and drive 900 miles without even, I was going to ask you, where do you pee? But did everyone else ask you that question?
Yeah.
How do you mentally get ready for that?
So a lot of it for me during the training periods that I have, I don't know. I've been told it's unique. For me, it's normal, and it's what I have to do to keep the brain functioning right. But there are a few apps out there that are basically mind games. So for brain health, to keep your mind focused. And so what I'll do is when I get on my cardio, I'll grab either my phone or an iPad or something and put it on that, and I'll get my heart rate up to about 164, between 164 and 170 beats per minute. So I'm in full blown cardio mode.
That's high. That's intense.
It's intense.
Yeah.
And then I'll do the games while I'm in that load. So
Oh.
while I'm under a physical load, I put my mind under the mental load as well. And I've been doing that for years.
What apps do you use to do that?
Luminosity.
Really?
Yeah,
So,
Luminosity is the one that I'm dialed on. Like, it's the one.
so you basically, what kind of cardio? Are you doing running? What kind of cardio are you doing?
No, I can't run because I have a lot of metal in my body from all the broken stuff. So
You're like a robot.
Yeah, I'm a robot. I try, right?
Yeah.
So a lot of elliptical or pedal.
And so you're going at it sounds to me like at like your maximum heart rate or almost at it, right? 80% at least,
80%,
right?
yeah.
Okay, so
Yeah.
you're not but that's still pretty high. So you're playing all these like mind games while you're doing that
Yep.
to kind of keep yourself sharp.
Yep, trying to keep the mental focus going under a stress. And that's kind of the biggest thing for me is you can go to a sports psychologist, which I have one, and I still go to, and we still talk about, we have our game days and the things that we do. But
What do you mean? What do you do? That's what the show's about. I want to know what you do. That's
Yeah.
what I want to know.
Well, see, that one's kind of my secret.
Uh-oh.
Yeah, I've got a really, really, really amazing sports psychologist. He's world renowned. And
What's his name?
ooh, giving my secrets away.
Yeah, 4 people are watching this.
Yeah.
It's okay.
You,
Yeah, me and you are 2 of them.
You may or you probably will know this guy. So he's quite famous.
Tony Robbins.
No,
I'm
not
kidding.
quite there.
No.
His name's Dave Austin. So he is
Dave Austin. I'm gonna write that.
he is an amazing tennis player. He's a world champion tennis player.
Okay.
I just met him 3 months ago, and I used him for the first time at my first race this year, and I've never drove better. So
Seriously?
it was incredible. It was incredible.
What did he teach you? Or
Just-
what kind of?
He has certain techniques and certain things that he basically tries to take all the junk, all the stuff that doesn't mean anything about racing for me, and we compile it down into 3 intentions. Just 3 intentions that I'm intending to do at that race. And we go through that process. And so the first time I did it, he explained to me, there are goals and then there are intentions. And we're going to take the goals and throw the goals away. And we're going to base this race off of your 3 intentions. And so I listed those 3 intentions. And he added to that and then put me in this mental space where it made sense to me and it made sense to him. And then I just jumped in the race car. And in my qualifying, it was, like I said, I've never drove like that. It was insane. Everything was on point. It's so the flow state.
Right.
You understand the
Yeah,
flow state.
I do.
So
But you should explain it because I understand it, but
Yeah,
maybe somebody,
sorry.
maybe the 3 listeners maybe don't.
the 3 listeners,
Yeah.
yeah, okay, 3.5. So the flow state. I mean,
And my mom.
Your mom,
Yeah.
mom too.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah.
So the flow state is the most incredible thing ever. And I've only been in it probably a handful of times in my life. It's being able to take all the outside distraction and focus all of your intentions and energy into your specific task. So where the science comes from that is, so take the peregrine falcon, for example. Are you familiar with this
No,
at all?
no.
So the
Tell me
peregrine,
that.
so the peregrine falcon is a bird, right? It's just a bird, just like any other bird. However, the scientists are researching this bird because they're not understanding how it can do what it can do. So what they'll do is they'll fly in an airplane and they'll drop this ball out of the back of this airplane, and then this peregrine falcon will track this object that considers it as food, and it will grab it out of air. They've clocked the peregrine falcon at 240 miles an hour. So
Wow.
they think, how is that possible?
Yeah.
It's a bird. How is it possible to do 240 miles an hour to be able to grab something out of the air. And so through the research, they understand that this particular animal is able to take and jump into flow state. It's survival. That thing that they're attacking at 240 miles an hour is food. It's a food base. It's their survival. Okay. And so that's kind of what I am trying to figure out and trying to learn. And I know that people out there know about it.
Yeah, well, it's a very popular. The flow state is a very like trending topic right now. And
it is. I didn't even know that.
But a lot of people don't know. But I know because this is what I do for a living too, right? Yeah. That's why I wanted you to explain it, because I think it's like a good thing for people to understand, especially if you're going to talk about it. So really, what Dave Austin.
Yes.
You know, is he a sports psychologist?
Yes.
Or is he like a mental performance coach?
No, he's full sports psychology, and then performance coach as well.
But they're usually kind of very hand in hand.
Yeah.
So he teaches you how to kind of get into that flow state.
Yes.
Using figuring out your 3 intentions.
Yes.
And then staying in that.
Yes.
Yeah. It is quite difficult. I mean.
Oh, it's super hard.
It's very difficult. Like, are there like techniques that you need to do to even get to that point?
Not necessarily technique. It's more of just saying it over and over and over and over again, just burning it into my brain.
Right.
Like for
like
example,
an affirmation of some kind.
Yeah. So for me, for example, the last race, one of my intentions was to win every corner. Right. Now that doesn't make much sense to most people, right?
Right.
But in a desert race, and the type of racing that I do, anybody can go fast in a straight line. You just have to push the gas pedal down. Right. It's either the only thing that stops you from going fast is fear. Well,
we know you don't have that.
I don't have that. So the faster, the better. So I'm sorry, I lost my train of thought for a second.
That's okay. You were saying that you're not fearful. Therefore, when you to get into that flow place.
Oh, okay. I remember right where I was at. I do that often. That's part of the disorder. It's part of the mania.
What, and you kind of lose focus?
I lose focus.
I do it all the time. Maybe I have it too then.
Maybe.
I mean, who knows? Maybe a lot of people have it then, because I lose focus right now, actually.
I think a lot of people have,
I think a lot of people have a lot of things that they haven't been diagnosed with, right?
We only know what we know.
We only know what we know, right? And so a lot of what people do is we manage our idiosyncrasies or our disorders by overcompensating in other ways.
Yes.
You know, and I think that most people, like I said, that's human nature, right? So, like I said, that's why there's no judgment here with what you have or that person has or what I have, because we all have something.
Oh, of course.
You know, we all have something.
I mean, at the end of the day, that's why when people judge me, I'm a 45-year-old guy with a mohawk and a bunch of tattoos. I have 4 kids and 4 grandbabies, right? People can judge me all they want.
Right.
I don't care.
Yeah, no, and you shouldn't. Yeah. And you shouldn't. And people should know better by now.
Too many people do, though.
And the ones who usually judge you are the ones who have more problems than the person they're being, judging. So
or jealousy.
Yeah, exactly. 100%. So go on. So then you're getting into the flow state.
Yeah, so the flow state. So
I'm going to keep you on track here, Justin.
So this last time, anybody can go faster in a straight line.
Right.
Right? So races in cars, they're all won by corner speed. Mm-hmm. And so I was explaining this to Dave, and he's not a race car driver. Right. He does all of his sports psychology is based on stick and ball sport. So this is kind of a new process for him with me. So I was explaining to him that to win a race, you have to be fast in every corner. So he basically said, okay, then I need you to take that entire 900-mile race and break it up into each corner. I need you to focus on each corner that's coming up. So you need to win that corner. Once you're through that corner, you forget about it. It's done. Now you're focused on the next corner. You're going to win every single corner.
Right.
When I was able to do that and constantly say that every time, I noticed that my driving was better. I was charging harder into the corner. My exit speed was better, and I was faster.
Yeah, you know what's interesting about this? What I find, there's a through line with everything.
Everything.
And I feel like everything is about breaking things down to small wins, right? Because the bigger the if you're trying to like get to A to Z, it's very daunting and overwhelming, right? But if you can break it down to small wins, like not trying to win the whole race, but say like, or all the corners, but you're saying just try to get to that one corner.
Yes.
It's just the same thing with like diet, exercise, fitness, weight loss. Try to like lose 1.5 pounds or 2 pounds a week versus looking at the 50 pounds that you're trying to look at. But it's like, which I find super interesting, and it's fascinating to me that no matter whatever you're trying to like be better at, whatever someone's goal is, the process is always the same.
Yes.
And figuring out ways to get there. It's all like, and so anyway, continue. I just wanted to make a note of that. It's interesting.
No, you're absolutely spot on. I mean, we always make a joke as my race team, as the analogies that we have are it's broad spectrum. The racing analogies will go along with the business analogies, and then the business analogies will go along with whatever. Like everything is pretty much balanced. Everything has its own purpose and its own path. And yeah, I actually did lose my train of thought on that.
That's okay. I would just say that how you do one thing in life is usually how you do everything in life. And I just think that it's interesting. The more people I meet and talk to, it's literally the same for everybody. It's just the way, it's just what their particular way of doing it or their particular habits are of doing it. But to get to, it's just, everyone has their own like secret sauce, but the same thing is the same. Is there anything that you kind of wanted to highlight about your journey in terms of dealing with your mental disorder, I suppose, and how it's maybe not just helped you professionally, but how has it helped? Is there anything that's helped you personally in the sense with your kids or with your grandkids or?
I mean, anything in specific?
Well, you were saying that with the Mania, it helped you with your career, right?
Yes.
That's why it's been, because you're fearless all the time. How does that kind of play into your personal life in general, good and bad, not just good?
Well, I mean,
with the depression, like you said, you were in bed for 8 months.
Yeah.
Right.
So my family, my children, they are my support group, my tribe,
right.
I guess, and that's kind of how I've always explained it to people. You need your tribe, and so my kids, my friends, and I only have a small group of people. Those are the people that know me well enough that they know each phase that I'm in, and so when I'm in a depressive phase, they know it. And
what are the signs that you're going to be? Do you have signs or do you know by now the signs when it's going to start to flail?
I don't know. That's just it.
You don't. There's no sign.
That's just it for me. I don't know. So we know our fingernails grow, right?
Right.
We know our hair grows, but we can't physically see it. And it's kind of, for me, it's the same thing. I don't know when I switch. That's why I was so intrigued when he was here.
Dr. Abe.
Yeah, Dr.
As
Abe,
I call him.
Yeah. Is that this is the first time that I've actually paid attention to the shift.
Right.
And so I'm documenting it, and it's going to be interesting to find out where the ride goes.
Right.
Because I don't know where it ends.
So do you speak? You said you're obviously you're an advocate
Big
of.
time.
So do you do a lot of speaking engagements? Do you speak to kids about this? Are there early signs that people can look at for themselves that can help them?
Oh yeah. So so last year I was fortunate enough to sign on with Mental Health America, which they're a very, very large organization for mental health. Being a part of that group, yes, I get the opportunity to speak in front of people and speak to kids and speak about addiction and mental health and suicide prevention and bullying and all these other things that have been part of my life.
What kind of addiction, by the way, besides adrenaline?
Yeah, adrenaline.
Drugs, alcohol.
So I was, injury breeds addiction, and it's not always, it doesn't always happen that route, but that's what happened to me. And so I had a big crash in 2000, and the doctors just kept pumping me full of drugs. And so it went from, a hydrocodone to more. And then once the doctors said, hey, okay, no more drugs, I needed them. Mentally, I needed them. The addiction was already there. And so I found myself buying them on the street and trying to track them down. And I did that for a long time.
How long did you do that for?
Probably, well, I guess a long time's a relative, right? So it was 9 months. 9 months of my life. I was running a company with over 300 employees. I had a lot of responsibility, and I was an addict through and through. Like I was, and I know it. So the story how I got off of it was pretty crazy. So after the crash that I had, I realized that I couldn't race at least for a year because the surgery was pretty intense. And so as I was laying in the hospital bed, I was watching TV and I saw a commercial of a dirt bike. I'm like, you know what? I'm going to make a movie. Well, my wife at the time went, oh no, because she knew that when I have an idea, I just push, I go through it.
Right.
So I got out of the hospital, and within 2 months, I had bought a full camera setup, all the editing software, self-taught myself how to do it, and then spent the next year filming, and I made a movie about dirt bikes.
Are you serious?
Yeah, it was like completely.
Is the movie out? Can people see the movie?
Yeah, I mean it's called Mass Hysteria. It was, I mean it's a mini doc, I guess, on dirt bikes. And it was done back in 2001.
Wow.
2002. So anyway, so I learned how to do all this stuff. Mm-hmm. And so then I had a buddy, he called me up one day and said, hey, I have these friends that are going to Alaska and they're hunting. Will you go film this with us? Well, I'm not a big hunter, but Alaska, okay, let's go. So it's insane. I literally I had 2 weeks to prepare for this trip. In that 2 week period of time, the only thing that I was focused on was my pills. I needed to make sure I bought enough pills.
Right.
So I could pack them because I was going to be gone for 45 days. And it was a brutal 2 weeks because of the anxiety of not having the addiction or not having the pills for the addiction. So I make it to the airport and bags are on the plane and they make the first call for Alaska. I'm like, okay, you can back out. I'm nervous, right? Because I'm going to be there for 45 days in the middle of nowhere.
Right.
And no accessibility to anything. They make the second call. I'm like, So I stand up and I go to the restroom and I sat there and stared at myself in the mirror. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, you spent 2 weeks trying to find your pills, and now you're stressing about this amazing opportunity. You're stressing about it because of the addiction. So I took 2 pills, ate them. I took the rest of them and dumped them down the toilet, and I jumped on the plane.
So you basically just did a cold turkey?
I went full-blown cold turkey. In the middle, I was
my God.
700 miles away from civilization. I was in the middle of nowhere in Aniak, Alaska, going through severe withdrawal syndromes.
Oh my gosh.
So I don't suggest that for anybody. Don't do it that way. That's just the way that I did it.
Oh my gosh.
So
have you been sober ever since?
Yes. Yep. Yeah, I have taken pain meds because I've had several surgeries since then.
With what you do for a living, how do you stay away from that? Because I'm sure you get injured constantly still, obviously. We talked about that.
Well, I have 4 broken ribs right now. I mean, I broke 4 ribs 3 weeks ago in a race.
So and you still take meds then, or you don't?
No.
So you just live through the pain?
I have to because I understand and know the consequence.
Yeah.
That's one of the only consequences that I know, that if I started again, my driving suffers, my family suffers, my company suffer. I mean, everything suffers.
What company, do you want to talk about your company a little bit and just touch upon what kind of company you have?
Yeah, I mean, I have a few.
Okay. So the most successful one and the least successful one, or all of them?
Oh, geez. I mean, I own a supplement company that we do all right in.
What kind of supplements do you guys make?
So it's mostly for mental stuff. It's mental focus. So nootropics, that type of path.
And where do you sell these?
So Gear 49 is sold on website, and then on Amazon, just the normal platforms. Okay. I know it's kind of nonchalant type thing. It's nothing that I really focus on too heavily. My racing is my focus.
The racing is your focus.
Yeah.
And then I know I asked you this, and I don't really feel like I wanted to kind of just...
You didn't get a good enough answer?
No, I wanted to kind of close the loop on this. How your mental disorder has affected your family, your kids, besides them being the support system and a tribe for you? Is there how does it? What happens? I mean, now like I said, to me, you seem great, but this is, like you said, you're a really good actor.
Yeah.
So how does it affect them, like off of a camera, off of an audio, when when strangers aren't listening? Like, what happens now? You go home, and what happens?
For me, on my side, it can be taxing at points. So the disorder is interesting on the point for me that every time I tell a story, I live that story. So when I tell the canyon story, I remember it very vivid, and it's there nonstop. And so when I do these media tours and when I do these podcasts and radio shows, I talk about it nonstop for 3 or 4 days, and then when I'm done, I'm smoked.
Right.
Like, I'm done, and I have to really be cognizant of my mental state, because it doesn't matter what mental state I'm in. When you talk about it constantly for 4 or 5 days
for
straight,
sure.
you live it. And so it can be taxing. And then on the children's side, there's one thing that I wish I never gave my kids.
An iPad, like me?
Yeah,
No.
an iPad. Exactly. An iPad, a computer.
Yeah.
My daughters, it's a hard thing to be a daddy and to watch your daughters struggle with bipolar and with mental illness. It's a struggle. So to have your adult daughter talk to you as a dad and say, "Dad, like, I want to die," or "How do you do this?" It's hard for me because, I'm trying to teach by experience. I'm trying to teach by what I've learned, and I know how hard it is. And then to look at my daughters and know, like, I have this incredible love for them, and to have them struggle, sorry.
No, please don't. I mean, I feel you, because
So yeah, it's the kid end of things. I mean, I guess they have an advantage that I'm their dad, because I know
you understand.
what they're going through. But on the flip side, I hate it, because I hate watching my children struggle like that, because I know how hard it is.
I know, as a parent, I understand. Like, it's one thing when it happens to you, but when you see your child going through any kind of pain or discomfort, it's the worst feeling you can imagine.
Ever. Because family is everything. Family is the pinnacle of everything for me. I do talk about racing. I talk about the mental health and companies and stuff. But at the end of the day, the kids,
The most important thing ever. I agree with you.
yeah, it's the best.
It is. And so how do you help? How does she deal with her struggle? Does she, like, is it a daily battle, I guess?
Day by day.
Day by
Yeah,
day?
it's
like everything else, I guess, right?
It really is. I mean, it's a day by day thing. I mean, I'll reach out when I haven't heard from her for a little bit, and I'm like, "Hey, you doing all right?" I just kind of, because I know my triggers. When I fall off the radar, I have 3 people that know that if they don't hear from me in a couple of days, they know right where I'm at. I'm stuck in that bed, and so they'll show up and they'll drag me out. So
What's the trigger then? You said when you fall off the radar. What's the other trigger?
Some of the other triggers are, I have a tendency of being, like, super emotional about things, which is silly, right? But it's
Not silly.
the emotion level is really heightened on the depressive side. On the manic side, the emotions are a little different, but it's more of, it's beast mode. That's kind of how I say it. I'm like, you're in beast mode. Like, you can conquer everything. So the negative emotion really isn't there. It doesn't really affect on the manic side.
Right.
The depressive side can be a little rough.
Right. Absolutely. I mean, wow. You're like, this is great. I mean, so if people, where can people find Bulletproof? Is it on Amazon?
Well, I'm on Amazon, the website, justinpeck.com.
Yeah, tell people how they can
then-
find you, because if you have any questions, or if people are struggling with the same thing that you're dealing with, or have questions about how it impacts their life and what they can do, please tell people how they can find you.
Yeah, so if you go to the website justinpeck.com, you can reach out to me personally. So I've had a lot of people tell me not to do this, and I tell them no. I answer all the emails. So anytime anybody emails me and there's a struggle, I answer it. Now, I don't give any medical advice and I don't do any of that stuff, but for me, it's really important for society in general to know that, yeah, you know what, you have at least one guy that you can talk to. And so I get a lot of emails from the website. The book is, of course, on Amazon, which is the big platform. Social media stuff, Justin Peck 49 on Instagram, and then Justin Peck on the other stuff. It's not the ballet dancer. I'm gonna say that.
Okay, definitely not the ballet dancer.
There are two of us on this planet, two Justin Pecks, and one of them is a really good ballet dancer, and one's a race car driver, and there's no confusion there.
Exactly. Yeah. I would second that motion for sure. Well, you've been an absolute delight. Thank you so much for coming on my podcast. It was really interesting and fascinating. And I love when not only I learn something, but you give people valuable information and they can take away with themselves and apply it. I love the stuff that you're talking about with how you kind of get into your mental focus with your flow state. Thank you so much. It's been a pleasure. I really appreciate you coming on.
Yeah, it's an amazing opportunity. Thank you.
And good luck with everything.
Oh, thank you.
No, you're welcome. Keep me posted, and I'll hope to see you again.
Okay, perfect.
Bye, everyone. Thank you for joining.